What are the 5 top nudges you can use in your business right now? Hi, I'm Bri Williams, the Behaviour Explainer, and today we're talking about small tweaks you can make in your business using behavioural science to get better results. Here's number 1, anchoring. The first information your customer receives becomes their anchor point, against which all subsequent information is judged. In effect, we judge on relative rather than absolute terms. Most commonly, we see this in retail. Why buy a Casper mattress for $9.95 when you can get a Chulo for only $750? And here's another great example from a zoo. Want a soft toy for $35 or to see the real deal for only $7? But too many businesses get anchoring wrong or underestimate its impact. Like this furniture retailer, where they list the recommended retail price in tiny font in the corner where it will have no impact at all. Or this insurance company that anchors us to the lowest price on the left. Sure, they try and drag our focus over to the more expensive option on the right by shading it. But by sequencing it in this way, from lowest to highest price, the news for the customer in terms of cost just gets worse. They've anchored us to $69, and they're relying on customers being sufficiently interested in the inclusions to determine that the $109 offer is the better value. That's a lot to ask with people that are generally price sensitive, particularly around a grudge purchase like insurance. Look to apply anchoring anytime you want to frame expectations about one thing being better than another. Most obviously, that means whenever you're talking about price, like in quotes and proposals. For instance, we charged a job similar to this last month for about $50,000, but for you, I think we can bring that down to only $42,000. And your website or promotional materials when you're talking about your delivery fee or product options or particular promotional offers. But you can also use anchoring when you're trying to convince stakeholders to invest in your idea, and salary negotiations too. We typically offer candidates at your level $120,000, but for you, I think we can take it up to $127,000. Wow, where do I sign? Top nudge number 2, defaults. The default bias means that people are more likely to proceed with an option that's been pre-selected, effectively leaving things as they are. It's the ultimate path of least resistance. Such is the power of default bias that in some jurisdictions, like Australia, businesses are legally prohibited from defaulting people into marketing lists under anti-spam legislation. In your business, when you present options to your customer, you often have to decide whether you will pre-select an option, and if you do default something, which option will you choose? You should use default whenever you're presenting options to people and you want to nudge them towards perhaps what you prefer and hopefully they prefer as well. Most commonly, that means there's a call to action involved. See how Twitter has defaulted the selection to turn on personalized ads? Be careful with your defaults though. Defaulting someone into something they may not want can backfire on you. Here's an example of a pet products company who default people into having products auto-shipped. That's unlikely to be what people want. And don't overlook how defaults can inhibit or help productivity. Defaulting meetings to an hour means that most meetings will run for an hour. Instead, as you can do with Google Calendar, make the default meeting time a smaller unit, say 25 minutes. If people want a longer session, they can, but they'll have to go out of their way to shift from the default. Let's move on to nudge number 3, assurances. With assurances, we're really talking about psychological safety, making people feel comfortable to proceed with what you're asking of them. That might be a customer on the cusp of committing to a purchase, or a colleague committing to a new policy, or an action in a meeting for which they'll be held accountable. In a sales context, the easiest thing to do is offer money back or satisfaction guarantees. In a workplace, the actions of leaders are paramount. It's not enough to say you have their back You need to demonstrate that you actually do. Use assurances wherever you are asking people to commit to something new or different, or place something on the line, like money, time, or credibility. That means throughout your purchase process, particularly in moments of heightened anxiety around call to action buttons and putting in their payment details, for example, you should provide assurances in meeting requests and meetings themselves, for instance, by providing a subject line that explains what the meeting is about. Email requests that clearly communicate what, if anything, is required, and email responses that reassure the sender that their message has been received and understood provide assurance. Let's look again at the Twitter example I mentioned. Notice the strong headline reassures us that we're in control, and knowing how important assurances are, I provide a money-back guarantee for my courses. Speaking of which, if you want to learn more about the nudges that we're talking about today and how to actually apply this thinking in your business, feel free to enroll in my course, Influencing Action. As one of my course participants said, most of all, it's fun. See what I just did there? I provided a testimonial, which is a form of social proof. This provides reassurance that if other people have taken the course, you should too. You'll find details of my course below. Now, on to nudge number 4, short-term bias. Short-term bias is our tendency to prioritize the immediate over the longer term. The short term is more concrete, it feels more tangible, whereas the future seems very fuzzy and abstract. This has 2 significant implications. People like to get good stuff now. They want to put the bad stuff off till later. Whenever you're asking someone to do something and you're providing a rationale, make sure you provide a benefit in the short term, even if the more significant benefit is down the track. Health app Noom does this very effectively as part of their onboarding process. Weight loss typically has a longer term payoff. So Noom front-end the process with a lot of immediate wins. For instance, they make it easy and rewarding to take the first steps and download the app and see how soon you can reach your goal. They also provide plenty of positive and immediate reinforcement, even for small things like adding demographic information. Now, even if you don't have a tangible short-term benefit, say with a big-scale project, there's always ways to make people feel good right now. Instead of relying on the longer-term benefit to keep them interested, talk about how good it will feel for them to have this decided right now. It'll be another thing off their to-do list. And once they've given the green light, you'll take care of the rest. Here we go. It's nudge number 5, framing. Think of framing as how you communicate your message, the language and other cues that you use. It's like the context that your message comes wrapped in. For instance, this business has framed the message that their sandwiches are 97% fat-free rather than saying they are 3% fat. You have to make hundreds of these framing choices throughout your day. What should your email subject line be? Your call to action? The title of your presentation, or even your job? Let's quickly revisit the Twitter message asking us to accept ads. 2 things to notice here. The default option, what they want us to do, is framed in the positive. The option they don't want us to take, they've made sound unpalatable using negative framing. I mean, who wants to keep less relevant ads? Or this one from eBay Plus. I'm rewarded with a voucher if I continue, but if I don't, I'll lose my plus benefits. These examples are a tiny speck of what there is to know about framing and how powerful your choice of words is on your ability to influence behaviour. Of course, you can find more about this in my books and my courses, and I've added some further resources to get you started in the comments below. Now, I know I said there were 5 top nudges. Well, here is a special bonus nudge, the peak end rule. What is it? The peak end rule means that the most important, impactful points that can make or break your engagement with someone occur at the peak, so how things feel at their most intense, and at the end, how you leave them feeling. I'll add to this the importance of how you begin. First impressions matter. The peak, end, and beginning rule means that you don't have to optimize everything in your business. Instead, focus on key moments. Apply this approach to presentations. For instance, don't end your presentation on Q&A because that often deflates the room. Websites. Don't underestimate how off-site extensions to a process impact how they view you, particularly how quickly and clearly they receive things like order confirmations. You can apply the peak end rule to conference and event planning. Shorter, broken up programs provide more peak and end opportunities. Likewise, look for opportunities in customer communications, how you construct your meeting agenda, program or policy rollouts, and documents more generally, from user guides to staff handbooks. So by ending on this bonus nudge, I hope you've enjoyed this short clip and that I've left you on a happy note. Before you go, please consider liking this clip and subscribing to my channel to get more free ideas about behavioural science from me. Thank you, and I'll see you again soon. You should use